the John Muir Way and the John Muir Link, 187 miles in 12 days from Helensburgh to Dunbar and Cockburnspath in June 2026. John Muir, 1838 to 1914, was a Scottish-American adventurer, naturalist, walker, mountaineer, author, and one of the first advocates for wilderness preservation. He was born in a strict Presbyterian family in Dunbar, but his family moved to Wisconsin in 1845. He subsequently became a highly influential supporter of conservation. His work contributed to the creation of some of the world's most famous national parks, thus earning him the title of the Father of National Parks. The 134-mile John Muir Way, which I walked in Scotland, is the little brother of the iconic, more challenging 211-mile John Muir Trail in America, which runs through the Sierra Nevada from Yosemite Valley to the summit of Mount Whitney. The latter was completed in 1938, but the former was not created until 2014. While not nearly as remote and challenging as its US counterpart, the Scottish Trail has its own merits, not least a great mix of different types of terrain as it wends its way across the country from coast to coast. These include passing through Scotland's first national park, Loch Lomond and the Trossachs, walking along the Antonine Wall and two historic canals, the Forth Clyde and the Union canals, walking through and experiencing Edinburgh from a different perspective, and finally enjoying some splendid scenery along the coastline of East Lothian. Despite a considerable amount of relatively flat walking on tarmac and through urban areas, the John Muir Way still comes with plenty of challenges, as you will see in my videos, and I was surprised to discover that there was more overall gradient than I had expected. Although the John Muir Way officially finishes in Dunbar, I elected to spend an extra day walking south along the John Muir Link, which joins the trail up with the end of the Southern Upland Way at Cockburnspath, thus joining up my continuous footsteps all the way from Land's End to Inverness, and marking the end of a monumental task that I set myself many years ago. However, there is more stuff to be done, so I'm not finished yet. It was exciting to be back in Helensburgh, which I visited on many previous occasions while my husband has been working in the submarine base at Faz Lane, and which I have used as a springboard for my numerous forays into the Auric Alps and my other long-distance walks in the area, the Three Lochs Way, the West Highland Way, and the Rob Roy Way. Please see my separate videos for more information about these. Day 1, Helensburgh to Balloch, 12 miles. The start of the John Muir Way by the Forth Clyde in Helensburgh. On my way through the centre of Helensburgh. Fairy foxgloves, an ornamental plant often used in rock gardens. Ivy-leaved toadflax, which has antiscorbutic and vulnerary properties and is edible but slightly bitter. Helensburgh Upper Station. Beautiful rhododendrons. The Hill House in Helensburgh, which was designed by Charles Rennie Mackintosh for the publisher Walter Blackie and his family. The house is now covered by a steel and mesh box designed to protect it from the elements and to allow its saturated sandstone walls to dry out. It was closed when I walked past, but I have visited it during a previous trip to Helensburgh and I would highly recommend it. Guelder Rose, a natural antispasmodic and sedative. View after climbing 1,000 feet to Banachra Muir. Muir means moor. Broom. Gorse and broom look very similar, but the main difference is that gorse has spikes while broom does not. Broom has traditionally had numerous medicinal uses as a diuretic and cathartic, but it is safer to avoid it due to its toxicity and potentially harmful effects on the circulatory and nervous systems. View of Loch Lomond from Banachra Muir. And the same again. Another view from the top. The Stony Mullen Coffin Road, which runs between Balloch and Cardross. This is what it looked like when I walked it in the opposite direction in July 2013 in torrential rain. The John Muir Way and the Three Lochs Way run together down into Balloch after meeting at the top of Banachra Muir. The Three Lochs Way, which I walked in July 2013 and August 2016, runs for 34 miles between Balloch and Inverness. It was pouring with rain for most of the time. Wild Bleeding Heart. All parts of this plant can cause stomachache if eaten, and the foliage can aggravate skin allergies. I arrived in Balloch really early and celebrated the completion of my first day on the trail with a coffee at Lomond Shores at the southern end of Loch Lomond while I was waiting to get into my accommodation. I was very excited to discover that my room had a bath, but then annoyed to discover that the bath had no plug. The manager very kindly went out of his way to get one for me, so I was able to continue my celebrations with a lovely soak in the bath. That evening there were further celebrations because two good friends, Aidan and Steve, who used to live in Balloch, drove up from Glasgow to join me for supper. Please see my Day 2 video for the continuation.